Oh, it's getting recorded, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can start then. The first question is like Excel sheet column title. We are given a a positive integer. We need to return its corresponding column title as appear in the Excel sheet. So they have been encoded like 1 as A, 2 as B, 3 as C, and these alphabets 26 as Z. The next time you have 27 A and 28 AB, so on. So for 1 corresponding to 1, they have given as A. Corresponding to this, you have AB, and corresponding to 701, you have ZY. Yeah. Yeah. So any queries in the question, I think, or how do you approach this?
Seems like converting
Yeah.
it to a different base. So from the decimal, we convert it to a base of 26, and we
Okay.
have mapping as well for 1 to 26 as well. Maybe we can just use the ASCII values to convert those numbers into the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is just like my first thought by looking at it.
How will you encounter for this 28 and all?
So if given 28, I would first divide it by 26. So
Okay.
if it is divisible by 26, that is if it is more than 26, then
Hmm.
I'll basically keep on dividing it by 26 and find the remainder and the modulo. Remainder will become my the 10th digit here. Sorry,
Hmm.
the yeah, remainder will become the
Last.
10th digit and the divisor will become my uh, unit digit, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe I just swapped both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like similar approach only. Correct. So I just use the dictionary, and this will contain all the uppercase letters, and I just encoded them in the dictionary. Like corresponding to 1, you'll have this A, 2, you'll have B. It will start from 0. 0 will have A, 1 will have B, and I just took the let's say whatever number you give me, I'll take calculate the remainder, and I'm doing this -1 because I'm starting it from 0. So I'll get the quotient and the remainder, and corresponding to that remainder, I'll fetch it, which character it corresponds to, and at last just I'll return the reverse of that. Any queries here? Like,
So you took 28 and divided it by. So in the case of 28, can you walk me through the
yeah,
code? Yeah.
sure. So what will happen? Like if you take 28, then it will be 27 here. 27, and you divide by 26. So your quotient will be, I think, 1, and your remainder will be 2. 20 remainder will be 1. Now corresponding to 1, you'll have B, right?
Corresponding to one, I have. Oh, from the zero index. Okay.
Yeah, you'll have B for that.
Yeah.
And next time, what will happen? You'll again take the N. Your N will be 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
N will be 1, and when it is 1, if you take for that, the quotient will be 1 and remainder will be 0, and remainder Z corresponding to 0, you'll have A. So now I'll take reverse of it.
Makes sense. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it will be AB.
I think this saves you from recursion, I guess. Otherwise, we might have
Yeah,
recursive
I
approach.
take a digit, each digit, and recurse it corresponding to that, whatever you get.
Yep.
append it and go for the next one. Or anybody has any other approach other than this?
So in here you are using auxiliary array. How about like if you use direct
That ASCII code you're
ASCII
telling.
to character?
Yeah, you can use that also.
Yeah. So in that
For
case,
that, you have to take like this
your
order,
space
whatever
complexity.
character you have.
I mean,
Space
you can
complex,
go on the
yeah.
speed.
But here also it's a constant space only, 26 letters, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's a constant space.
Yeah. Yeah, we can use that. You want to share? Like, I think for ASCII, what you'll do, whatever character, yeah, share it. If you have. This I
Give me
think
a
we'll
few
need
minutes.
to use.
I need to log in.
Okay, okay. If you do +1, then it should be 1. No. Yeah, I'm stopping my share.
What is lead code problem number?
Problem number is, wait, let me check.
168.
168.
What is the number? Sorry.
168. 168.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got this weights in Java.
Um,
So SB dot string buffer and then string buffer dot append, and I do character 65 plus.
Capital starts from 65, right? That's why.
Yep. And then I do string reverse. The other way to do it is like if I do if I comment on the append and insert at 0, then I can directly run sb.toString. So I tried to execute these two, and I was looking at my performance. The memory-wise, the reverse was taking a little bit more memory, and the runtime was same. So
No. Why 0 they are giving runtime?
yeah, runtime is like 100%. So
Yeah, seems good.
insert at 0.
Okay. Yeah.
So if it's really, I mean, huge string, then insert, the performance with this insert maybe degrade as it's always actually shift, allocate the new buffer, and then move it to the end of the existing buffer, copy the existing buffer, and then insert the new character at the first position.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the insert would work.
Yeah, this is how it will work, because you are inserting at the first position. So if the buffer is full for your string buffer, so first it will allocate the new buffer, copy that, and then insert the character.
But the buffer doesn't have size, right? You said buffer is full. String buffer doesn't have size.
Internally, it has size because
Internally
everything
it
is
will have.
limited. So
Internally it will have initial allocation and then just like array maybe.
yeah, so internally it's actually hiding all the complexities. So whenever you insert a new character and there is no a buffer, so behind the scene, what it does is it actually creates a new buffer, or approximate double the size, and then copy the existing buffer, and then insert the character at the correct place. It's just like if you are inserting, inserting the in a static array, you are inserting the element at first index. So you are shifting all the elements.
So string buffer is dynamic. Okay.
Yeah, it's dynamic, so it's actually hiding all the complexity here for you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then we can proceed to next. Next is next is like reconstruct itinerary. Or we are given a list of airline tickets which are represented by pair of departure and arrival airports from two, and reconstruct. We have to reconstruct the itinerary in order, and all of the tickets belong to a man who departs from JFK. Thus, it must begin from JFK. There are some note points like if you have multiple valid itineraries, we need to return the itinerary that has smallest lexical order, which when read as a single string. For example, the itinerary JFK and LGA has a smaller lexical order JFK and LGB compared to this. Okay, all airports are represented by three capital letters by IATA code, and we may assume that all tickets form at least one valid itinerary. Yeah. So it's like it will always start from JFK. So in this example, you can say it started from JFK. Now its end is it's starting from JFK and ending at MUC. So MUC you have to check and insert it, and MUC starting from MUC and ending at LHR. So you'll go to LHR, insert it. It's ending at SFO, and from SFO to SGC. But at times you may have like if you start from JFK, you can have here also JFK and here also JFK. So you have to pick the one in which the end string will have smallest lexical order, like by sorting it should be. So first the insert is JFK, this JFK and this ATL, because this has lexical order is less compared to SFO. So ATL was inserted. Now it will go to ATL, and yeah, and it will go to this is it. First it inserted JFK, okay, then it went to ATL. Just first it inserted JFK, and its destination is up to ATL, and ATL is starting from here. Yeah, ATL starting from here, and it will end at JFK. So it will go to JFK, insert JFK, and JFK is ending at SFO. So SFO, you'll insert SFO, and SFO is again ending at ATL. So you'll insert ATL and ATL again at SFO, and at last SFO is appended. The other way is this, but in this case, you'll find that if you start from, you can't, if you start from this will have a larger lexical order. So that's why this is avoided and this is taken. Yeah. Any queries in the question? Any approach, anything?
Okay. One way is to probably have a dictionary.
Yeah.
Like the first value
So
should be key
how
and
will
the
you
second value
begin
could
with
be
that?
index, could be the value. And maybe then we can try.
Is it
What? You go ahead.
also the adjacency list? Maybe sort the keys on a lexical order and then do a DFS.
Makes sense. Can you elaborate it a bit more? Like, would you like to explain more?
Like you can form a adjacency list. Like you can form a hash table or a dictionary where you can sort. No, I think here you're not doing.
No, yeah, I think you are going correct only. You can form a like you can have the source corresponding to which all are the destinations. That would be the value corresponding to this.
JFK will have.
Like from
JFK will have both ATL and SFO, but you sort them in lexical order. So you will have ATL first and then SFO. Then you can actually, since the start is JFK, maybe you can do a DFS with a starting node from JFK.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't solve it, but just an approach. I just think
That's a good one. No, I mean I have followed the same one what you are saying.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Shashank, one just clarification. So
Yeah.
does this graph will have a cycle also in it? It seems right that it can have a cycle, and still we have to find a result.
Definitely, because somebody's destination can be somebody's source.
So do we have to first find if there is a cycle also?
Does it matter?
It
But
doesn't.
how are we going to do it? Like it will go in loop, right? If we have to.
It will go in. No, we'll pop out each time. No, like once you visit that, you'll pop it out. So, like let's say JFK is your key, then you have two stations to go, SFO and ATL, right? Now you'll take the minimum one. I mean, lexical minimum. Either you sort them. So you'll go for ATL. Now check for ATL. Now once you have taken ATL, so corresponding to the JFK as a key, these two you are having. You remove ATL from there, your list, and just go for ATL and check ATL is having destination for JFK as well as SFO. So again, pick the one. Yeah.
I think yeah. Usually what we do for our visited set, right? We always mark the vertex as visited or not. Usually in many of the problems, right? But I think here we have to mark whether the edge has been visited or not. So I think that's a whole difference about detecting, like about thinking differently. So what I did, I basically do a map of, let's say, a start vertex and what are the different edges it has. So for example, in the case number second, the JFK has SFO and ATL, right? So I will say the JFK is basically the key of a map, and then its edges will be the SFO and ATL. And initially I will mark both SFO and ATL as unvisited. Okay. And then keep on doing a DFS. And when I visited that SFO, I will just mark it as visited, so that next time I will not visit the SFO again. So here, instead of visiting, like marking the visited of vertices, I'm just making sure I'm marking it as in visited edges. And the problem is, altogether you have to just visit all the edges. Rather than all the visited. So I think that's a difference between a Hamiltonian path or the Euler path.
Euler path.
Yeah. So I think that's.
You want to share?
Yeah, I could, but right now I'm in my mobile. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Does it look like lexicographical sorting, right? Like we sort in, certain order. There's a start node and the end node in the graph.
No, but only when they are similar, then only we'll use. Only when your first station is same, like JFK, JFK, then only you'll perform sorting. Else you don't need to perform.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And also like you have to make sure that you covered all the edges, right? So for example, let's say there are 5 of these. For example, in the first case, there are there are total in the list sizes 1, 2, 3, 4, right? The list size is 4. So you have to make sure the output contains 5.
I mean, like, not sorting in that term, but what they call it, the lexicographical sort, like, dependency sorting on the graph. So, it's like, node A depend on B, so B have to be before A.
I got it. What you're trying to say is a topological sort, right?
Oh yeah.
But that's not correct. But that's not correct, because in case of topological sort, essentially it means that you have always forward pointers. That's how you, like there is no back edge. That's what I'm saying. But in this case, there is a back edge, like backward edge, because there is cycles, right?
Okay.
So that's not true.
Okay. Shashank, can you share your code?
Yeah.
We'll go through this.
Oh, we can. So what I did first year, I created an adjacency map, and how I created is, this is like I'm taking this example because this you have duplicates. So corresponding to JFK, every first one as a key, as a source station, what are all the destinations it can go. So if you check for JFK, you can go to SFO ATL. You check for SFO, you can go to ATL. That's it, ATL only. And for ATL, if you check, you can go to JFK and SFO. I did it, and then I performed sorting on this part, like in a descending order, because they are asking for lexical. So like this, if you see SFO and ATL, this is same as a descending. There's nothing in that because single only you have, and here you'll have SFO and JFK. Now each time when I'll pick, I'll go from the back side, and I'll check which all stations I have to go from there. That is, I've done, I performed DFS in that. So what I did, let's say first time JFK will be passed to this. Now you first check if JFK is in your adjacent map or not. You have JFK in your adjacent map, and then this you have to check what is the length of the value. This value, if it is greater than 0, because each time will be popping out whenever I visit. So what I'll do, I'll first, this condition is true. Now your length is also greater than 0. I'll start popping from the back. So my first station that I'll pop out will be ATL. Now once I pop out ATL, ATL will be removed from here, and I'll go and I'll check where is ATL in this dictionary. The ATL is here, and corresponding to that you have SFO and JFK. Again, I'll traverse on that. Now when I'll traverse, I'll take JFK and pop JFK from here and go to the JFK, and I'll see SFO is there. Still your length is greater than 0. You pop it from your this, and you go to the ATL, you see. Now once again, when you see the ATL, you go to this SFO, and when you see, when you see that your list is empty, so then at that point we'll start appending. So when you start appending, so first will be your SFO, and then in a reverse order it will be appended, and after that I'll put it I'll reverse the entire result, this one, to get that.
But why you still have left out ATL in the SFO and ATL?
No, I didn't iterate further. Like you can again.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, once you do it, everything will be over.
So you have to do this iteration till you all of these
list is empty.
Everyone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then only you start actually filling in those values.
Appending to the result. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll iterate it here, you'll get. And this is simple, like for every ticket jargon, you're checking if your first character, first source station is present in it. If it is not present, just make it as a key, and corresponding to that, add this value, the second value for every. And if it is already present, then like first time I'll go for JFK. It's not present, I'll add JFK, and corresponding to that value will be SFO. Next time I'll see JFK, then I'll simply append ATL to it. This will do that, and then this is like I'll sort them in a reverse order, because at last I'll return the result reverse of whatever I have.
So how do you know JFK is first or the start node?
They have mentioned here all of the tickets belong to man. It will start from JFK only. Somewhere they have mentioned, I think.
Okay. Yeah. And do they mention that the list contain only the valid segment, flight segment? They don't have any,
Yes, they mentioned it that there will be at least one valid itinerary.
Yeah. You may assume that all tickets from at least one valid itinerary. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just a little curious, like how you define the end conditions, like because there's a possibility that you are making some way and it's not a valid one.
No, you're telling that when I'll append to the result, that right?
Yes. No. Yeah, exactly. Like there's a possibility. Let's say that you started with a path and it's not the right path, right?
No, but they have already told you'll start from JFK, right?
No. It will. Let's say from after JFK you pick SFO, assume, for some reason.
Okay.
Okay. And then after SFO, yeah. Tell me.
I've sorted it, no. So I'll always pick it from the.
No, but there's a possibility that SFO is the right path and ATL is not. So, for example, in this particular case, the ATL thing, remove the SFO. So that way it will become like you have to go via SFO, not via ATL. So you have to backtrack.
Yeah.
Right?
That is what DFS is doing.
Yeah, that is true. But how you determine that this is my answer or not? Like what exactly?
Or kind of one partial solution you're asking, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, this is once you find that the entire that corresponding to this entire list is over, you'll append that to your. This is what going on. The moment when you're.
I see. You are appending it, but not at the end, but everything. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It is like, yeah, when this list get over, after that you append that one of your source station, airport.
So where do you backtrack if it happened?
I didn't use backtrack here. Like
but the
concept is similar to that,
but someone would say if you pick SFO, then it's not the right path, and then you have to select different path.
It will. What do you mean by wrong path? Like let's say SFO you picked, you will find whether it is a key or not. This is what it's checking if it is if that airport is present your adjacent map or not.
But say let's say SFO is a key and it has remaining value as no value, and you still have some city left to visit. Then some keys are still pending to visit. So how will you solve that?
No, the terminating condition is like when this particular list gets over, then only you'll append this. But if it's not over, then still it will go and check to that. Like say ATL is left, it will go to ATL and check. Again, ATL you are having. Now let's say if ATL gets over everything, then
you are appending that to the set. Okay.
Yeah.
The input is always like connected. Maybe there are no two different disconnected graphs here.
Can we consider example?
Sure.
So it could be the last node too, right? Like a tail, right? If you look at say mouse tail, the tail end of the tail is the last node, which could be something like Atlanta or something like that, right? There could be only one path going to that node, that city.
Yeah.
I think I have created one example to mimic it if you want to enter it and see whether that works.
Sure.
So from JFK to SFO, from SFO to JFK again. And
can you paste it in chat?
Okay.
And Shashank, second question is, why did you reverse sort it? And then you had to like the result also is reverse it.
Reverse sort because of the lexical stuff they are telling. So I have reverse is in the descending order. Because they are telling that the smallest one should come at first.
So could you not? Okay, so you wanted to pick like pop out like that's
from
why.
back side, yeah. Had I the option of picking it from front side, I would have. I think he has shared it.
But if you initially pick you sorted your map and then pick the smallest one first.
Sorted the map and smallest one first.
So,
yeah, but
so if you,
then in that case, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, if you pick ATL, then you don't need to actually sort it and reverse it.
Okay. It's the same thing, back reverse and then doing again, resulting the reverse. It's taking.
Hey, Shashank.
Sure.
I've actually posted an example in the chat. Can you just try it out?
I think Gaurav has also shared.
Yeah. I'm Gaurav. Okay.
Oh. So I think.
It just I remove one of the edges from the original second example.
Okay, yeah. This one, JFK SFO, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So first, I think we'll start from JFK, right?
Yep.
Let me paste. You'll get a dictionary out of it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think I have to write there.
So do we have a valid itinerary? Is that a valid itinerary in that?
Yeah, it has. There's a valid itinerary, but you don't have to go to ATL first. You have to go to SFO.
From JFK to SFO, SFO to ATL. Yeah, I think. Let me print the map then first. Yeah. Screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, because here's some. So according to your example, this is the dictionary that I'll get, right?
Yeah, JFK to SFO, SFO to ATL, ATL to SFO, and then SFO to ATL. I think there is one H missing. Oh no, it's ASF to SFO to JFK.
This is your question.
Yeah, sorry. Like there is one missing one. SFO to JFK.
So he wants you to add one more, you say, right?
Yeah. SFO to JFK.
Oh, but again, then it will go to ATL.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. JFK to SFO, SFO to ATL, ATL to again SFO. It's a cyclic, right?
Yeah, again SFO to JFK and then JFK to ATL. But because if you go first to JFK to ATL, then you will not be able to travel the JFK to SFOH.
Yeah. I think.
But you would be able to, right? Because you can go back and then you can come back again. No, man, it will still be there. No, this is not the perfect example which I was thinking. Sorry, man. Never mind.
I think
this
no, it's okay. I think Bhumika shared some examples.
Okay.
Can we please run that? It's just 3 edges, and I think I got Gaurav or Sandeep's idea what you are trying to do. That is the last edge is the dangling edge. So it's I have
it's not pointing a, okay, yeah, I'm pasting yours only in the chat. This is yours, right?
Yes.
SF. Okay, let's try with this.
Okay, so what happened here? So it went from JF. So yeah, it took JFK and ATL first, right? So from
okay.
ATL, there is nothing going. So what does it do after that?
Oh, ATL, you don't have any, yeah, that will check out my program. No, there I've written if that particular, whatever you have popped out, if that is not in your, what you say, in the dictionary, then it will won't be appended to your result. It will just ignore it.
Oh, okay, got it.
Because we are popping it from backside. ATL will pop and you'll check whether it is a key in valid key in your dictionary or not. But it's not a valid, so it will not be appended to your result.
Okay, next.
Yeah.
So in this case, JFK, it going to, wouldn't that go into ATL first? Because ATL is the smallest one, right?
Yeah.
And then JFK go to ATL, and then what from ATL it doesn't.
You don't
go
have any
anywhere.
path. First of all, this will not exist also because they are saying that what everything you should have a. You may assume all tickets form at least one valid path, whatever. Yeah, itinerary. From ATL, we don't have any.
So you have to consider each and every edge.
Yeah.
And
then.
Yeah, I mean, this is accepted, but somehow this is not a valid input, right?
Yeah, that's true because you don't have path from ATL to other destination. I think what you're saying. That's why that is I'm taking care in the key part.
How is this not a valid one? Because you can go to from JFK to SFO, from SFO to JFK, and from again JFK to ATL.
Yeah, this is a valid one.
No, but why a person traveling from JFK, he has a flight directly to ATL, will go through SFO and come back to JFK, right?
No, that's a requirement.
This is how they purchase the ticket.
Yeah.
Or maybe he has to buy something at SFO. Possible, right?
Relatives might be staying.
Yeah.
But
so I think this is a valid one.
I think this is a valid one, and that is a key part. I mean, edge case. Most of the people can miss it actually.
It's very tricky. Yeah, that's a good one.
If that's a valid one, then
yeah. So this part actually tell that you have to use the backtracking.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. That's not
But I don't see the algorithm that you backtracking.
Yeah. I think he's using because he's actually verifying that if he cannot actually.
That's what I was asking. Where's the backtracking?
No, I'm not using normal DFS only. I'm using. I'm before moving to the path. I'm checking whether it is in the key or not. When you pick ATL, it will check whether it is a key in your map or not. If it is not, it won't enter here itself, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it's ATL in your map, right?
No, ATL is not after. Where is ATL in my map?
It is in the output.
JFK is there, SFO is there.
When are you adding it in output?
Yeah. Yeah, it's taking care. I mean, we don't have any next destination from ATL to any next destination from this map.
So if we add another one from ATL to some another random, for example, AMD, it will take ATL and it will try to find the destination for ATL, which wouldn't exist. Would that be a different? And that's valid itinerary.
ATL to some other.
Yeah, ATL to Mumbai something.
Yeah.
what MUM, whatever.
Yeah, you can say MUM, MUB.
I'm not gonna validate this.
Yeah. They are not very.
Okay, so
Should be 3 character.
Wow.
So JFK, for JFK,
It still takes the same way. Wow, that's good.
yeah.
So all the validity cases come at the end, and all these cycles are actually first exhausted.
So how come it did not pick ATL and instead it picked SFO?
Okay. Can you show the code, Sam?
Yeah, sure. This.
What if you have cycle at the end, like on the tail?
Like from Mumbai, you are going to Mumbai. Mumbai, you are going to. No, I'm popping out also. No, how will you have cycle at the end?
So you can say JFK to Mumbai, Mumbai to Chennai, Chennai to Delhi, Delhi to Calcutta, Calcutta to Chennai.
I think let's iterate this. Let's iterate this one. Then we can get. Let's take this.
So he's saying a lexicographical way have a cycle.
Oh, but so let's say I'll start from JFK, right? So if I'll start, JFK is in your key. It's already sorted in a reverse order. Okay, so you'll pick the ATL and you'll remove ATL from here. You'll go to ATL and remove Mumbai from here. And
then you are done.
Yeah, I'm done. ATL I'll append, right?
Oh, you'll append ATL, okay.
I'll append and then I'll take whatever destination, like ATL again I'll take. But
no, I don't think so that way, right?
Wait, I think MUM is right. Let me.
You take the SFO because your JFK's value is not none.
JFK? What it was?
Yeah.
I think it was ATL.
Yeah.
ATL is there.
Right.
Okay, let's start from here. So I'll start from JFK. JFK is in your map and length of this is greater than 0. So as long as your length is greater than 0, so now your destination will be ATL. Okay, ATL will be your destination.
How can it, because you're iterating through this list, right? SFO and ATL, it should be ACFO, right? First.
No, back it will take, no, adjacent map airport. JFK it will go, JFK list, it will go to this list and will take from the back, pop.
But is it not the airport what you are taking from?
Yeah, so what actually he's doing here, so first he's actually navigating and finding the airport from where he cannot go anywhere and then putting that airport in the list first. So in this case, the Mumbai will be the first airport, will go in the result list.
You need to find that source station from which further you can't go anywhere. Like,
yes.
Because see, I got ATL first. Now I'll go to ATL.
Okay.
Then.
And ATL to Mumbai.
Mumbai. So now your destination will be Mumbai, right?
Yeah. So yes, and you remove it from there, and then you check that Mumbai is not in the your adjacency map anymore. Then
and we'll append it to result.
Append it here. Then you go back, and now it check he's actually at the ATL, and it check that ATL is in the map, but there is no destination airport for that because he already removed the Mumbai from there. So now he actually put ATL in the map.
The DFS, right?
And, and remove it from there, and then go back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Python. Yeah. That is the reason it's only 4-5 lines code. Okay.
Otherwise, it will be.
Yeah, it will be slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
good.
Yeah. Okay. So we can proceed to next, or any regarding time complexity. I think This
Yeah, that will be interesting.
DFS. Yeah, DFS you are using.
It should be still same, right? O
Yes,
of
yeah.
V.
Big O, man.
Yep.
N log n. So we are sorting.
Sorting also, no?
Oh.
Reverse this will take n log n. And coming to DFS part. Here
But
order of
n log n is n are the vertex or edges?
n are the number of this number of no corresponding to key this length.
Okay.
So that in worst case, if it is n, then so these are the unique. The stations which you can reach from this particular airport.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we can, or any queries, so we can proceed further.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. Oh, yeah. It's valid number, right? So it's like we have to validate if a given number can be interpreted as a decimal one. So these are the examples. True. For this also true. You'll have ABC. This false. And if you have a space, again it is false. You can insert exponential that will form as a true. This is a false, I think, because of the space front and behind and this. So these are the example. These are the note points. Like it is intended for the problem statement to be ambiguous. You should gather all the requirements up front before implementing the one. However, here is a list of characters that can be a valid decimal number. If you have numbers from 0 to 9, exponential, plus minus sign, or decimal point. Apart from this, if you have, I think that will be a, of course, the next context of the characters also matters on the output. The signature of C++ function is updated if you still use a signature as a constant character. Just click reload. Okay. Yeah, any queries here? Like it's more of a, isn't
Programming check, language
check.
check.
Language check, that kind of patience and language both.
Yeah.
So this is more of an implementation or?
Yeah, it's like more
is only more of implementation, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any tricky algorithms here, right?
Yeah, you can see this more than 4K, 4.5K dislikes is happening.
Oh, because it is hard and it is still not that hard. That is what I'm trying to
conceptual, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy to implement it in a 45 minutes time.
Yeah, there may be lots of edge case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You may struggle with them.
Are they suggesting that we build a regular expression for this, or what's the goal here?
I think if you can build regex, that will make it more concise and less number of codes you'll use.
Yeah. I think we should build a regular expression. What Bhumik is saying is right.
Yeah.
But you have all things mixed up,
Yeah.
You can have a string there, or else you can have a
exponential space string. So I believe that regular regex means.
And while I was saying regular expression, I was not actually implying just the build one and then use a parse function on that. I was maybe thinking in the terms of building a graph-like structure where what can be my initial, my first character can be only a few of valid possibilities, right? That it can either be a number or a positive or negative sign. And then I can just prepare an adjacency graph out of it. That is, from any given valid character, what are other valid characters possible? And if I can continue following the graph, that will give me the right answer. If I'm not able to go to any valid node from a given node, that means it is not following the pattern, I guess. That's what I was thinking basically.
So each and every node will represent a single character in the string, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is like a normal DFS.
Yes, yes. Once you build that graph based on these requirements, right, then all you need to do is just like you'll have some initial nodes where you can start with, or you'll have the map as well, which will tell you the source nodes, and then you take it from there and try traversing character by character.
Yeah, interesting.
How do you know the first character to be positive, negative, or a number? Because look at the example, there's a space. Like, you know, in example 2, there's space in there, but it's still true.
For the spaces, we can just trim the spaces from both start and end, and then start our algorithm. Spaces, I think, are not, because spaces
in
cannot.
Also,
So if I encounter a space in middle, that would be good, and that would tell me that okay, this doesn't exist in my graph. So from one, I'll not have.
But if you see the seventh example, space LE, then it's a false. How come that works then?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
It will become a mess, I think.
Because I think after exponent, you need to put something, right?
Right. So 1E, 1 something like that.
Yeah.
So it's that the space is not a problem. The space is valid. You just go ahead with that space, whatever it is. But if you encounter something like 1E and there is no decimal after that, any digit after that, then actually it's false.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how do I represent that in a graph. I was just talking about it, but in 1E example, I'll have 1 as a valid one. After 1, I can go to E. But how do I put a condition that after E, I must go somewhere, otherwise it's not valid.
So in the interview, this example are the one we have to come up with, or the interviewer will provide this to us? Because it seems like we look at it, we know, we make assumption that the space will be not a problem, you know, because we know what the answer is.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I think these are the test cases we need to construct before actually we start implementing it along with the interviewer. So these are the things we need to come up with.
But how can somebody like that could...
Not so much detail, but few of them, right?
Yeah. So do you expect this to be asked in an interview? It can, right? Or
you mean to say this example?
Yeah. I mean, do you think this is a proper interview question? Like,
yeah, you never know.
Yeah, that's
you know. Yeah, you may get if they give you the ambiguous requirement, so they will just give you the example, and you have to just build the requirement from there.
Yeah.
Or check with your interviewer.
But I think these kinds of problems are the hardest one to solve.
Yeah, looks like, I mean, it's not that simple actually.
Like in terms of doing it, you can do it maybe like after running again, figuring out what's the issue, fixing it, then continue like this. But in an interview setting, these kinds of problems are hard.
I think in one shot it's difficult to actually write a bug free or missing. You will not miss any edge case.
Exactly.
But at least they will look at it the way you approach it. Those things they will consider. You know, they are not expecting you to completely implement that.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
So one approach is like using try and just stripping it, and then just using this try and except concept. Convert it to float.
Yeah. Oh, that's so easy.
No, I mean, I've seen this. That's why. Coming out like this.
How would that take care of the exponent? Oh, they use a string. Because we use the internal library, right?
Pardon?
Because this one float, take the string. That's the internal library. I don't think the interviewer, allow us to use it.
Yeah, you won't. At least you will ask the interns about the library then.
So someone mentioned it's asked in Facebook interview.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow.
No.
Yeah, I can see that it has been asked if with Facebook 13 times.
Yeah, Facebook, Amazon,
And
Oh.
Amazon 2 times, LinkedIn 3 times.
Great.
How do you check it? Is that the in the
Premium, I
vehicle?
think.
If you have a premium account, so you can see that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this won't be accepted in interview, this solution.
No, I don't think so. But if it works, but then he will still dig into that flow to how it's being implemented and all that. So it is going
I
to
don't
be
think
the
so. That is expected in the interview.
Yeah.
I believe that expectation here maybe you have to validate all the edge cases. So like whether it's a valid input. For one example is that if somehow your string has 2e, so it's upfront invalid. You cannot have 2 exponent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's a valid protection code, man. You should always use it whenever you are using this kind of problem in the protection. But not in interview. I think interview will not accept it.
But I like the way also Bhumik was approaching. Go through the DFS way. And, yeah. After E, you can actually, that is one valid question. We can ask the interviewer also what to do about that.
I even thought about that. So for any character in my adjacency list, I can have a null node, which will tell me that if there is no null node, then I must have something after this. If there is a null node, then I can say that I can safely stop from here.
Mm-hmm.
Or in each character node, I can say whether it can be a terminating node or it can be the last node or not. So E can never be a valid last node. So couple of ways to get around.
Come up, yeah. So nodes, what will you take? Like what will be your nodes? Like 0 to first, this numbers like this, or?
Yes. So all the possible characters which are allowed in the string to be a valid decimal string. So 0 to 9, so total 10 digits. E.
Yeah, 11.
Then plus
11 and 3 this.
Yep.
14 or 115.
Nodes. So these are like static list of nodes I can form. And then from each of them, I'll have like what can be the next possible. Can this be, and on each of this node, I'll have a character C, which will tell me that what is the value of it. Can this be a start node? Can this be an end node? And the adjacency list.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So even though E is a valid character within the string, if I start with E, I'll have E written as inside the node for E. I'll have a flag saying, can it be a start node? And I'll have a false there. So if I see E as the first character, I know this is not the right thing.
So as you know that we can go in only in one direction. So why are you thinking that may be a graph? Because there is only, you can go, if we take an example, so say like ABC or let's say 1, 2, 3. So from 1, the next node will always be 2.
That's valid, right? So you keep going it.
Yeah, I can have a lot of possibilities after each node, and then it can have a cycle as well. So for example, in the case of the, let's see a valid case. In the case of 6E minus 1, right? So after 6, I can go to any number or an E. So I'll know, okay, I can go from 6 to E. From E, I can go to any signs, plus, minus. So I go there. Now, after the signs, I can go back to the numbers as well. Oh man, this will be actually
I think, I mean, I can see here that may be some sort of a state machine. So what is your previous state and where are you going? What is your next state? And then you have to validate whether you can come from this previous state to this state or not, whether this transition is valid or not.
Yes.
Wow, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I'm thinking of try, like a structure where we put is valid number as a Boolean flag. So if my, say my root node will have 1 to 9, and those will have is valid number as true. But if I have sign minus, or E, then E will have is valid number false. That means if my parsing string, if it terminates at E, that means it's not valid number. And then I can go on to recursion of calling each character in my input string to match up in the root node in the try and see if it makes a valid number or not. Make sense?
Yeah, but so you are saying that you will create a try for the input, correct?
Yeah, try for the valid cases.
Oh, only for the valid. Okay.
Yeah, only valid cases. So like 0 to 9, and if I don't find node, that means it's out.
But if you're creating a try for a valid cases, that means you know which are valid cases. So then we can return the answer true immediately, right? We don't even have to go for that. Is it not? Because I was also thinking about the try, because what happens, you know, like if we have like -6, so I start with minus, which is valid, but then when it comes to minus again,
no, but
I don't have anything to validate in the try.
So minus is valid character, but it's not a terminating character. So you expect something after that.
Oh, so you are trying to say you create a try first like that.
Yeah, so you just like in dictionary, how you create is valid word, there is a normally that's a flag, right? Here we call it is valid number. And
okay.
with E and minus sign, we call it out like that's not a valid number. That's not terminating valid number.
That's actually a very, very nice approach, man. I really like it. Because I think with try, you are trying to implement a state machine, right? What are the different valid states? I can go from one state to another state.
But with try, there could be multiple level, and you know the later level could be the repeated, you know, of the earlier level, right?
Right. Actually, right. Yeah.
That is true.
No, but the way he's saying, you know, you create a try with all, like if it is minus, you start with minus. If it is plus, you start with plus. They will have two different nodes starting, right? And then you keep coming for the children. So either it will be digits or it will go to, after digit, it will go to E. You know, so if it is a digit, you make a single node saying, okay, they are all the digits. So for all of them, you have the children's valid children. I think that might work, you know.
Yeah.
But you'll have to create that whole stuff first.
Yeah, I think we can also create some form of a graph, and then if the string is still left and we are not able to traverse to the graph, then we can just say this is not a valid one. So when I say a graph, let's say we will have different symbols in the graph, right? So for example, one is an integer, one is E, one is minus, one is plus, and one is dot, right? These are all the symbols which we have, correct? So it means the integer can go to itself. So there is a self loop, and also the integer can, after integer, what all can come. So we can just try to build a graph out of it, and then we can solve this problem, I think.
Yeah.
That's the same as the state machine.
Yes, exactly.
It comes to state machine only.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end, it comes to there.
State machine. So I'm actually trying to build a state machine only. Yeah. That's all I'm trying to do.
I think, looks to me that it may not be that complicated now. So what I'm thinking here that to validate the case, so number one, we can verify the string whether if there are two E in that string, it's a straightforward invalid, right?
Yes.
Now we can split the number around E.
Yes.
So one is the part before E and one is after E. So second validation we can have that see the example 1E. So that means if there is no character after E, it's a straightforward invalid.
Yes, if there is no character after E.
Yeah, and now you can, yes, now we can check. One, we know that if there are two in the first part, there are two decimal, it's a straightforward invalid.
Yes.
So if we narrow down that, I mean, after that, it will be straightforward, just verifying the number.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
tried
like
to
a string
implement it.
parsing.
I tried to implement it. Out of 1400 some test cases, my 1300 are passing. So.
Okay.
really?
So maybe just one or two edge case you
Yes,
have to go
exactly.
through.
So because like somebody said that 3 dot is also a valid number. So
3 dot?
yeah.
No. Why?
It is a valid.
No.
It's a valid. You tried it. It's valid.
3 dot is a valid?
Yes. So all these cases are actually stuck in my.
Valid.
Really?
3 dot years.
Right. You'll have to
No,
give
no,
something.
not 3 dot. 3 integer and dot.
3 integer and dot,
Yeah,
is
dot.
a valid.
Yeah. I didn't know about it.
So do we have a sample here with this?
No, I don't.
No, they don't have. So even they have not created one.
Yeah, and dot is not, but a single dot is not.
Yeah,
A single dot is not definitely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you need some digit before that.
Yes, but e dot is also not valid.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything after e is not valid, right?
You should have one character after dot. Then only it will be
Before
valid.
dot. Before dot, you have to have one character.
Then e dot is not valid. He's saying.
No.
Yeah,
E
that
dot
is true. E dot won't be valid, but E2 point is valid.
Okay, so what you are saying is basically we need an integer.
Yeah, we need
2
a
point is
integer
valid?
Yeah, it should be
I
valid.
don't think E2
Oh, okay.
point.
Just
Yeah.
try.
Can you try e point is false. That's for sure. But what about e dot 2? E2 dot. So that's the case. We don't even know what are the things.
It should be valid because the way it is saying.
Yeah. 1 to 3 dot passes and this should.
Oh, that is also false.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
because you have put a space there. Just try without space.
Where
There's no space.
There's no space.
No space.
No. Exponents cannot stand on its
Yeah,
own.
that-
It's a mantis.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that there should not be any dot in that.
Okay.
But that case is not mentioned here. That the number and then dot.
Yeah,
so
that's not mentioned there. Yeah.
it's, but you mentioned that exponential can't have its own. So
Yeah. So
what about
this is-
one e2
yeah.
dot? What about one e2 dot?
1 E2 dot. I mean, it is mentioned here that E2.5 is not a valid number. If you see that.
Yeah, gotcha. But what about this case?
Should be false.
One e2 dot.
One e2 dot should be
false.
valid.
Should be false.
Yeah, there is
False
no
is this.
Okay. And why? Because
Because they mentioned that 99 E2.5 is false. So that means you cannot have any dot after E.
No, you can have dot after
you can
E.
have.
You can have 2.5.
This here dot 5e after dot you can have e. This is
No,
two.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, you are right.
he's saying that after exponential.
No, after
it's
E.
always
After E.
exponential.
Yeah.
I see.
They should not be. Yeah, okay.
And one e is also not
No
not
floating.
valid, right?
Yeah, 1E is that. I mean, if
Yeah.
there is nothing after E, so that's not a valid case.
And
That
e3
case,
is also not because you need something before e as well.
yeah,
Why e3 is false?
There is no integer before e.
nor integer before that.
Oh.
Yeah, exponentials cannot have a
I think the
float
only
value,
case
right?
which
Yeah.
So I think I missed this part only. I think I will try it out later.
I think the only case is missing here that you mentioned that something number dot.
Mm.
That case
Yeah, that is not
given
there.
here.
The rest,
Yeah.
everything is correct. Yep.
Okay.
Krishnan, can you try 1E plus 2?
1 e plus
Plus 2.
It should be valid, I think.
Yeah, it's valid.
Mm,
But
not
that's again
given
one of
here.
the corner cases.
It's not given here.
It is
Oh,
valid.
nice. Then, yeah.
but there are many opportunities. I mean, examples can be there.
Yeah.
So what are we coming to? It is a string parsing with a state machine, right?
Looks to me state parsing. No.
It looks like that, yeah. Because you just parse it, all the numbers before E and after E.
Yeah,
So
looks
after
like first
you
you
cannot have any float values. That's all.
Or we can even do this, like we can take character by character. Let's say if it is E, then take 3 characters, 3 continuous characters, E plus 2 more characters and validate if it is a valid float or something. That's again comes like a brute force, but yeah.
Yeah, that is what it is almost, right? Whatever we are thinking as a brute force, that is what it is coming to now.
Yeah.
If a decimal is not allowed after E, then how will you handle that in graph approach we talked about?
So those are the valid and invalid cases we need to consider.
In graph,
we'll have to have some way of actually validating that.
Yeah, for example, if in the graph you already visited E, you can mark as visited, and if it's coming again, then you can always say it's an invalid. That is one of the example, right? So same way with a sign, right? So if it's not in the starting, or if this is not coming from E, the positive and negative sign can't be there. So something along those lines.
Yeah.
But generally all the numbers have a edge to dot, so that we can have a decimal after a number. But after visiting an E, we cannot have that edge from numbers to decimals.
Yeah. So for example, like looks like there can looks like there can only be one dot in this string. If there are more than one dot, it's invalid.
So double dot shouldn't be valid.
Yeah, like in the entire string there can only be one dot, right?
Yes.
I'm talking about this.
Anything after E there is float is not allowed.
Even before E there can only be one dot, right?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, that is obvious, right? You can have
that
one
is
dot, yeah.
In general also you'll have only one dot in the number.
Yeah, so if you have more than one dot in a string, you can always return false in the beginning itself.
Yeah.
Like we can just think through and then.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's asking something else, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was asking that. So in the graph, all the numbers can have a edge to dot, so that we can have a dot after a number, right?
That's true.
Yeah. But if we have an E before in that string, then we cannot have a dot after a number. So it's kind of like we need to modify the graph such that all the numbers shouldn't have an edge to decimal.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
There will be two different validations, right? One before E and one after E.
No, even that is true, but like it depends on how you build your state machine, because maybe during your state machine you have appended some string that I have now E and 1, and can I go something like that? Because what's an input and what's like, because in the state machine I forgot what's a variable name called, but there is one other thing which actually dictates what is the next state. So all I'm trying to solve is a state machine. Like all we can do is basically solve a state machine with different parameters, right? So for example, you have already encountered E, then your global variable, let's say, becomes E something, right? So every time you have to move to a state machine, different states. So you will just say it's already have an E plus something. So is it a valid state or not to move to the next state?
Yeah. But can be implemented. You will have to think a different way.
Yes.
There are a lot of possible solutions for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly. But as you pointed out, like one of the fine solution is just before you start.
Yeah.
And then you can just apply that to the state machines. But then you will have to build two different state machines, right? One is with decimal, one is without decimal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before E and after E.
Yes, exactly. So that's one of the approach you can take. Like you can just append whenever you see an E, whenever you whenever you see an E.
Yeah.
There cannot be one more decimal. That's it. If it's there, you can strip it out and then reuse the state machine itself.
I mean, we can have two decimals, right? 1.1 E2 dot.
No, that's what we decided. That's not a valid one.
Yeah. After E, you cannot have, because any float number.
Okay.
I didn't even notice until you guys said this one.
Yeah, until we started brainstorming, we all came to know about that.
There will be single in the interview, like.
Okay. But I think if you approach this problem in that way, like they are not expecting to solve 100% because this is very difficult problem.
Yeah.
So I think if you solve till this and then just write the code, I think that should be good enough.
So all the inferences should be drawn from this example only, right?
Yeah. So can you go through this?
Yeah, sure. So first I'm converting to lowercase and I'm replacing every plus with the minus and stripping it whenever you find a space. So this is the base case. Like if you don't have S itself, you'll return false. From backside, we are checking if that is a number or if it is a dot from backside, then that will return false. And if your first digit, I mean, not of this, it is like, yeah. And if your first digit is a number, first digit in the string, or first digit is your this negative with a dot, a negation of this will return you false. So what it is saying that you can have first digit as your number, or you can have first digit as your this, it will return true, else it other cases it will return you false.
But what if we have a plus in when we start?
First digit.
Yeah, the first digit. Oh, you are actually replacing it.
I'm replacing it plus with minus.
Okay.
Oh, so okay. If it have 2 plus, you replace with empty?
We
if
have
2 plus next to each other.
Then I don't know.
I think it's replacing plus just to validate. I mean, just to handle only the minus.
Minus. I mean, reducing the number of cases.
Because you don't need to worry about plus in that case. So you will just verify if it's a plus, just it's a valid.
Both will be minus. First plus 2 minus and second plus 2 minus.
Okay.
No, you have a number like plus 1.
So minus 1 it should be.
It will be minus 1, yeah.
Yeah. Plus you replace with minus.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so you don't need to worry about whether it's a plus or minus. You will just check is whether it's minus or not. So that will make
narrowing down it to.
Yeah. So it's converting to minus only always. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And again, if you everything, so if your first character is a minus, then you just ignore that first character. I mean, remove that minus and take the rest of that in your string.
Okay.
And again, this is for your, every time you find this, replace it with empty space. And whenever you, this is for now, this will find the point, where is your point is in the string. And this is again will give you where your exponential is. Now,
okay.
if you find E in your first character or in the last character, or your count of this, because find will return you the count if your count of this is greater than 1, which is, I mean, you can have only 1 point in your entire string. If it is greater than 1, or your exponential is also greater than 1, that's again will be a null, I mean, false case. You can't have more than 2 exponential, I can't have more than 2 dots. And the rest is like, if it is a numeric, entire thing is a numeric, then true. If it is less than 1, that means I think you're talking for even 1 character is not, length of a string is 1, that's also false. Like you can't expect simply 1 to be true.
Yeah, you cannot have just a sign there. Yeah.
I mean, single digit you can't have, right?
Yeah, you can have single digit, but he's talking about signs.
Single digit?
Like 1 within double quotes. If your length of S is 1.
That is a valid number if you have just 1.
Yeah.
So that is something. So S, what we have in S now.
So he's actually looking for, what do you say, if there are 2 minuses, you know, so then he's trying to compare it. The first minus is removed at the top. So you have another minus, then he is looking at saying it's null, it's false.
No, I'm not able to understand this case. If you just have an input only 1. So that should be, that is a valid number.
That is okay.
There's something we are missing here.
No, I think after replacing it, we are checking this one. After doing all these transformations.
So after doing that, so we know that as
I mean, we have to take some examples in which you replace these things, and then we check whether your length is less than equal to 1. Or let's switch it off a bit.
If
You can
yeah, I
which
think,
test
I mean,
case it from. Yeah, this
fail dot.
single part, that
Okay.
means, yeah.
Is
See,
there a
S,
single
what
dot? Yeah.
S, you are replacing E minus with the space. You don't have a dot, so you're not replacing it with a, you won't have empty space for this, right? Because the first time you'll hit this condition, you don't have exponential and minus, so it won't be replaced by an empty space. And they are checking if it is, if your character is less than 1.
But in case of 1, it's already 1, right? The
So
length.
if you have a
True, it will
dot,
return true.
if it
So
is a dot, then it will still be a string. It will be a string of
it will, yeah.
valid length 1, right? So because he is not
Yeah.
Oh,
replacing
okay.
from
Actually,
line
I got it. So the line above that is numeric. So 1 will pass here and it will return immediately.
correct, yeah.
So if
True,
the whole number, the string, the single character is not a string, then actually you are checking. Yeah. So that's a valid case. Yeah.
Simply point shouldn't be there.
Yes. Got it.
But is S dot is numeric? Doesn't it check that? I thought it will be checking it.
No, it will not check that. It will just, yeah, it will. So it will return false. So that's why it actually execute the next line.
Okay. Okay. Different approach.
Now,
I don't know.
for every character in this, it will check if it is present. If any of that character is again present, but from this, then again it will return false.
Here is the minus thing that they are taking care of, as well as the space. Yeah.
Yeah, if there is a minus, second minus in that.
Yeah, second minus.
Mid.
And this is for leaving the first 2 characters. Yeah. And this is like you are just counting first 2 characters if your is this, what you say, dot and dot followed by epsilon exponent. Either this, or if -1 is present in any of your list, this one or this condition, if E is greater than your P. So what is E? You'll find number of dots and number of exponential. If number of E is greater than your number of points, that case is valid, and it will, because not we are taking outside. So either of these case is valid. Of not, it will return false for that. So I think this case is like E is greater than P if you have 2 exponent and 1 point. E
I didn't understand that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think E. I did wrong, I think. Yeah, this case. So your first 2 character is not this. This is not equal to this.
Okay.
Or you check -1 whether present in the list of E and P, and E, and so here your E is 1 and point is also 1.
Okay.
Your E is greater than P. That's also this is also false. This is also false, but the second one is true, and not of true is, that's why it's returning false.
Yeah.
And the rest all other cases it will return true.
No problem.
Yeah.
I think that was great.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
I
good
think.
question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's stop off the recording. If anyone has any
Sure.
questions.
Yeah. Anyone else any further?
Nope. I think so.
Okay, then we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Hey, you didn't stop the recording.
Pardon?
Recording.
Oh, sorry.